When we first open a Pro Tools session, we're presented with this dashboard window, and this is where we set all the preferences for our Pro Tools session. Let's take a look at this window in a little bit more detail. Firstly, we can choose between opening a new session, a recent session, and you can see I've got a number of recent sessions here. Cloud projects, this does require us to be signed into our Avid account, and we will talk a bit more about cloud projects in a later video, and some tutorials amongst the Getting Started and In-App Tutorials tabs. Let's focus on a new session today. Firstly, we can choose between opening a standard Pro Tools session or the relatively new Sketch session. We're going to look at the Pro Tools session today. Next up, we can choose where we want to save our audio, either to local storage or cloud collaboration. This cloud collaboration may be grayed out if you're not signed into your Avid account. Local storage means saving either onto the computer or onto an external hard drive. Next up, we name our track. I'm going to call this one Test. Ticking this box will give us a list of optional templates we can work from. Pro Tools has a number of templates which can be quite helpful when getting started. We can also create our own templates when we get further into using Pro Tools. We'll talk about that in a later lesson. For now though, we're going to untick this box and work from a blank session. Next up, the file type that Pro Tools is going to record in. We can choose between WAV files or AIFF files. WAV files, otherwise known as waveform audio file, is a Microsoft format, whilst AIFF file, otherwise known as audio interchange file format, is an Apple-based file format. Both of these are what are known as uncompressed audio file formats, which are capable of recording or capturing the highest quality audio. They're interchangeable between DAWs, and we can always export our files later on in a different file format to what we work in. I tend to use WAV files. However, if you know you're going to be working with someone that's using AIFF files, then you might want to select this option. The sample rate is how many times per second the audio is captured when we're recording. 44.1 kHz means the audio is sampled 44,100 times per second. 192 kHz means the audio is sampled 192,000 times per second. The higher the sample rate, the better quality the audio capture. However, the trade-off is that the file sizes are bigger with a higher sample rate. You might not see all of these sample rate options available to you. These are dependent upon the interface you're connected to. Some interfaces can only record in 44.1 and 48 kHz. Just like the sample rate, the higher the bit depth, the higher the quality audio capture. However, again, the trade-off is a bigger file size. Just for some context, 44.1 kHz sample rate with a 16-bit bit depth is CD quality. I tend to record between 48 kHz and 96 kHz with a 24-bit bit depth. I/O settings, or input-output settings, are the inputs and outputs that are coming into Pro Tools. I typically have last use selected because this computer never moves and it's always connected to the same interface. However, if you're taking a laptop and you're connecting it to multiple interfaces or taking it from studio to studio, this is where we can choose the I/O settings or the input-output settings. This interleaved box means that any stereo files are joined as stereo files as opposed to split into separate mono files. So the left and right are contained within one stereo file and not given to you as a separate left and right mono audio file. And then finally, for saving our session, we can either choose prompt for location or we can have this box selected, which means it's going to save by default at wherever this location is set to. And this location can be changed by selecting the location button. I tend to use prompt for location because I don't always want to save my sessions in the same place. Finally, this Show on Startup button is a handy box to tick because it means that this dashboard window will always be shown when you open a new Pro Tools session. However, if it's not ticked and you do not see this dashboard window and you just see the Pro Tools menu, the shortcut is Command-N to open the dashboard window. Let's click Create. As soon as we click Create, because we had prompt for location ticked, it prompts us for where we want to save our session. I'm going to save this session on the desktop of my computer. And that opens up the Pro Tools session for us.